I couldn't believe the words that came out of her mouth. Standing in the middle of my own living room, my dad's bride-to-be, barely older than me, looked me dead in the eye, one hand on her growing belly, and hissed, "You need to pack your things and leave. This house isn't big enough for both of us. And once the baby is here, you won't belong here anymore." Her voice was sharp, poisonous, like every word was meant to cut me open. And then she smiled, the kind of smile that told me she knew she had won. I turned toward my dad, desperate for him to say something, anything. But he just stood there, frozen, his face pale and unreadable. His silence was louder than her threats. That silence broke something inside me. I whispered, my throat burning, "Dad, you're really letting her do this to me?" And then he looked away. That was the moment I realized the girl carrying my father's child wasn't just here to stay. She was here to erase me. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I was not going down without a fight. And this fight would end with more than just tears. It would end in ways nobody expected. Now, before I tell you what I did next, before I show you how far this story goes, I need you to stick with me. Because you won't believe the secrets, the betrayals, and the revenge that followed. So make sure you like, watch, and subscribe for more because trust me, this is only the beginning. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 22 years old, and until recently, I lived with my dad in the house my mom once decorated with love. My mom died when I was 16, and from that moment, it felt like the world had already stolen more than I could handle. But I tried to survive. I tried to be strong for Dad. Growing up, Dad was everything to me. He worked long hours at a construction company, came home exhausted, but always managed to sit with me at the kitchen table, asking about my day. After Mom passed, we leaned on each other like broken crutches. We weren't perfect, but we were all we had. Or at least, that's what I thought. Things started changing about a year ago. Dad began spending more nights away, dressing sharper, even wearing cologne for the first time since Mom's funeral. I noticed the little things, the way he smiled at his phone, the way he'd disappear into the garage to take calls, the way his mood shifted when I asked who he was talking to. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he was just trying to move on. I wanted him to be happy again, even if it felt strange imagining another woman in Mom's place. But then one evening, he brought her home. Her name was Vanessa. She was 27. Only 5 years older than me. Blonde, perfect makeup, expensive heels that clicked across the kitchen tile like she owned the place. "Emily," Dad said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, "this is Vanessa. We've been seeing each other for a while now." I forced a smile, shaking her hand, though everything inside me screamed wrong. She squeezed too tight, her nails digging in just enough to make me wince. She laughed lightly, as if testing me. From that moment, nothing was the same. She started showing up more and more. Cooking dinners, redecorating the living room, moving things around like she was erasing my mother's memory piece by piece. I'd come home to find my mom's favorite vase gone, her curtains replaced, her photographs tucked away in boxes in the attic. When I asked Dad about it, he just said, "Don't make this difficult, Emily. Vanessa is part of this family now." Family. That word twisted in my chest like a knife. But the biggest blow came 2 months later. One Sunday afternoon, Dad sat me down. His face was nervous, almost apologetic. Vanessa sat beside him, her hand laced through his, her smile smug. "Emily," he began, "I wanted to tell you this in person. Vanessa and I are engaged. She's going to be your stepmother." My stomach flipped. My mouth went dry. Stepmother. A girl who used the same brands of makeup I did, who posted selfies with dog ears on Instagram, who once borrowed my hair straightener without asking. That girl was now supposed to mother me? But as bad as that was, worse news came not long after. Vanessa's belly started to grow. She was pregnant with my dad's child. That's when everything shifted. Her confidence grew. Her power over my dad multiplied. She'd say things like, "We need this space for the nursery," or, "It's better if Emily stays out of the way." And every time, Dad nodded along. I became a shadow in my own home, until the day she finally cornered me in the living room, hand on her belly, smile sharper than glass, and told me to pack my things. To leave. To vanish. Her words echoed in my ears as I stood frozen, my heart pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. And then, something happened that none of us expected. Something that changed the game entirely. Because right as she finished speaking, there was a loud crash from the kitchen, like glass shattering, like someone falling hard. I rushed in, and what I saw made my blood run cold. The sound of shattering glass rang through the house like an alarm. My heart nearly stopped. I bolted toward the kitchen, Vanessa right on my heels, one hand clutched protectively around her belly. The sight froze me in my tracks. My dad was lying on the kitchen floor, surrounded by shards of glass from a broken pitcher. Water spread across the tiles, glistening under the ceiling light like spilled blood. His chest heaved, his face pale and drenched in sweat, his eyes struggling to stay open. "Dad!" I screamed, dropping to my knees beside him. My hands shook as I tried to lift his head, water soaking my jeans. Vanessa gasped but didn't move closer. She just stood there, her perfectly manicured hand covering her mouth. "Oh my God, he just collapsed. Call 911. I yelled at her, but she froze, staring, trembling, not moving, not helping, like she was waiting for something. I snatched my phone from my pocket and dialed the number myself, my hands slippery with panic. As the operator asked me questions, I pressed my ear against my dad's chest, praying to hear his heartbeat. It was faint, but it was there. "Stay with me, Dad. Please don't leave me too." Tears blurred my vision, and my voice cracked. The paramedics arrived within minutes, but to me it felt like hours. They rushed in with a stretcher, lifting him gently as I stumbled back. Vanessa clutched her stomach dramatically, leaning against the doorway like she was the one in pain. "Ma'am, you need to sit down," one of the medics told her, mistaking her theatrics for distress. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them she wasn't the victim here. I was. My dad was. But the words caught in my throat as they wheeled him out of the house, and I ran after them. At the hospital, I sat by his bedside, gripping his hand tightly. The doctor told us it was a heart episode, something he'd been ignoring for months. Stress, exhaustion, maybe genetics, it was all catching up to him. "He'll need monitoring," the doctor said, "and a calmer environment at home." Calmer environment. The words stabbed me. Vanessa's smug glance at me from across the room said it all. She wasn't planning to leave. She was planning to make me leave. When Dad woke up, he was weak but alert. I leaned close, whispering, "It's okay, Dad. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." But before he could answer, Vanessa placed her hand on his arm, her nails shining under the fluorescent lights. "Sweetheart, don't worry about anything. I'll take care of you. And the baby. You just need rest." The baby. Always the baby. She said it like a weapon, like a shield against anything I could argue. For the next few days, I barely left the hospital. I brought Dad food, made sure he was comfortable, talked to the nurses. But Vanessa, she used that time differently. She whispered things to him when she thought I wasn't listening. Things like, "It's too stressful with Emily around," and "She doesn't understand we need space for the baby." I tried to ignore it, but I could feel the wall building between me and my dad. And I hated her for it. One night, as I stepped into the hospital hallway to grab a coffee, I overheard Vanessa on the phone. Her voice was low, careful, but the venom in her words was clear. "She doesn't fit in this picture. Once we're married and the baby comes, she'll have nowhere to go. Trust me, it's already in motion." My heart stopped. Who was she talking to? What did she mean, already in motion? I pressed my back against the wall, listening harder, but then a nurse walked by, and Vanessa cut the call, glaring at me like she knew I had heard something. That night, lying awake in the hospital chair, I promised myself, if she was planning something, I was going to find out. But the very next morning, I woke up to find Dad's hospital bed empty. Panic surged through me until a nurse explained. He checked himself out. Signed the papers. Said he was going home. "Home," I whispered. "Yes. Home. With Vanessa." By the time I got back to the house, my world tilted again. Because as I stepped through the front door, I saw boxes, my boxes, stacked near the entrance. My clothes, my books, my life, packed up like I was a guest overstaying my welcome. And Vanessa, standing smugly by the staircase, said in the sweetest voice, "Oh good, you're here. Your dad thinks it's best for you to relocate. For his health, of course. You wouldn't want to stress him, would you?" I froze, the words sinking like daggers. My dad was on the couch, avoiding my eyes, his silence louder than any order. But before I could argue, before I could even scream, there was a pounding at the door.
Loud.
Violent. Like someone trying to break it down. Vanessa gasped and stepped back. Dad finally looked up, his face twisted with something between fear and guilt. And when I opened the door, what I saw on the other side changed everything. The pounding grew louder, shaking the front door against its hinges. My heart raced, my palms sweaty as I reached for the knob. Vanessa clutched her belly like a shield, her eyes darting nervously toward my dad. "Don't open it," she hissed. But I already had. The door swung wide, and there stood two police officers, their uniforms crisp, their expressions grave. Behind them, the flashing red and blue lights from their cruiser bled into the night. "Are you Emily Carter?" one of them asked, his voice steady but sharp. "Yes," I stammered, my throat dry. "We need you to come with us. You're under investigation for credit card fraud and theft." My stomach dropped, so hard I thought I might collapse. "What?" I gasped. "No, that's not true. I didn't do anything." The second officer glanced past me into the house, his gaze landing on Vanessa. "We have evidence that the stolen purchases were shipped here. To this address." I spun around to face her, my chest tightening. She was smiling. Not openly, just a faint, smug curve of her lips that only I could see. "Wait," I said, my voice shaking. This isn't right. There's been some mistake." Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Emily, what did you do?" My knees buckled. "Dad, you can't believe this. I swear I didn't do anything." But the police didn't care about my protests. One of them pulled out handcuffs. "Ma'am, please turn around." "No. Please, just listen to me." I started, but Vanessa's voice sliced through mine like a blade. "Officers," she said sweetly, "I told my fiancé something was wrong. She's been acting suspicious for weeks. Please just do what you need to do." Her hand rested on her belly, like she was some innocent angel, protecting her unborn child from the criminal in the room.
Me.
They cuffed my wrists, the cold metal biting into my skin. Tears blurred my vision as I looked at my father, begging him to see the truth in my eyes. But he looked away. Again. They dragged me out onto the porch, the neighbors peeking through blinds and cracked doors as if they'd been waiting for a show. I wanted to scream, to claw at the sky, to make them see that I was the victim here. But the patrol car door slammed shut, trapping me in silence. At the station, the questions came fast. Did I open the credit cards? Did I buy the luxury clothes, the jewelry, the furniture? The receipts were there, the shipments tracked right back to my house. But I didn't buy those things. Vanessa did. It all clicked in my head like dominoes falling. The fancy handbags I'd seen her carry, the new furniture arriving as gifts, the expensive heels she clicked across the floor in. She'd used my name, my identity, and now she was framing me. I told the officers everything, my voice trembling but steady. "She's framing me. Vanessa. My dad's fiancée. She's the one spending the money, not me." They exchanged glances, skeptical, but not dismissive. "Do you have proof?" one asked. Proof. That word echoed in my head like a curse. Proof was all that mattered, and right now, she had it all twisted against me. They held me overnight. A hard cot, fluorescent lights that never dimmed, the smell of bleach and fear filling my lungs. I barely slept, my mind racing, thinking of Vanessa's smile, my dad's silence, and the life she was trying to erase me from. By morning, they released me on bail pending further investigation. My aunt, Dad's sister, picked me up. She hugged me tight, whispering, "I believe you, Emily. I know you'd never do this." For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of warmth. Someone was on my side. But when we pulled into the driveway of my father's house, that flicker turned to fire. Because through the window, I saw Vanessa, her arms draped around my father's shoulders, her lips pressed to his in a kiss that felt like betrayal carved in stone. And then my dad looked out the window and saw me. His expression hardened, almost cold, as he gently pulled the curtains closed. The door didn't open for me that night. I stayed with my aunt, but my mind never rested. I knew Vanessa had set me up, and I knew she wasn't going to stop until I was gone for good. And that's when the thought hit me, the dangerous, burning thought I couldn't push away. If I couldn't prove her lies the easy way, maybe I'd have to dig into her past. Find her dirt. Expose her for who she really was. The idea consumed me, growing hotter and darker every minute. And then, just as I started planning my first move, my phone buzzed with a message that made my blood turn to ice. It was from a blocked number, and it read, "Stop digging into Vanessa, or you'll end up like your mother." The words on the screen blurred before my eyes, but the message was clear enough to freeze every muscle in my body. "Stop digging into Vanessa, or you'll end up like your mother." My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. My mother, my beautiful, kind mother who had supposedly died of a sudden heart attack when I was 16. My world tilted as a dark, unspoken thought clawed its way into my mind. What if Mom's death wasn't natural at all? I gasped for air, my chest tight, my thoughts spiraling. Who sent the message? How did they know I was planning to investigate Vanessa? And why? Why bring up my mom now, after all these years? I showed my aunt the message, her face paling. "Emily, this is dangerous. You need to go to the police with this." "The police?" I scoffed bitterly. "They already think I'm a thief. They won't believe me. They'll probably say I sent this to myself." She bit her lip, clearly torn. "Then at least promise me you'll be careful. Don't do anything stupid." But I couldn't promise that, because something deep inside me had already shifted. This wasn't just about Vanessa anymore. This was about my mother. And if there was even a chance her death wasn't an accident, I had to know the truth. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in the guest bed at my aunt's house, replaying every memory I had of Mom's final days. She'd been healthy, vibrant even. One night she went to bed, and the next morning, she was gone. Dad told me she must have had a hidden heart condition. The doctors confirmed it. I never questioned it. Until now. My gut screamed at me. Vanessa was connected. Somehow. The next morning I started digging. I searched Vanessa's name online, scrolling through endless social media posts of her posing in luxury clothes, exotic vacations, champagne glasses clinking. She looked like someone who always had money, yet Dad claimed she'd been struggling when they met. Then I found something, a news article buried deep in the search results. 5 years ago, in another city, a woman named Vanessa Miller was accused of running a credit card scam with an older boyfriend. The charges were mysteriously dropped when the boyfriend died suddenly of a heart complication. My blood ran cold. Could it be the same Vanessa? The age matched. The photo in the article, though grainy, looked eerily like her. And the pattern credit card fraud, an older man with health issues, it was too close to ignore. I printed the article and tucked it into my bag, my hands shaking. That afternoon, I decided to test her. I went back to the house unannounced. When Vanessa opened the door, her smile was tight. "Emily, didn't expect you." I stepped inside, holding the article folded in my pocket. I just came to see Dad. He was on the couch, pale but recovering. "Emily," he said softly, almost guiltily, "I think it's best if you give us space for now." Space. Always space. The word felt like a knife. But I forced a smile. "Of course, Dad. I just wanted to drop something off." I placed a grocery bag of fruit on the counter, but slipped the article under one of the apples where Vanessa wouldn't notice immediately. I wanted her to find it later. I wanted her to know I was on to her. As I turned to leave, I caught her watching me. Her eyes narrowed, her lips curling in the faintest smirk. like she already knew what I'd done. That night, I barely made it back to my aunt's house before the storm hit. My phone buzzed again. Another blocked message. This one was worse. A photo. It was my mom's grave. Fresh flowers laid neatly across it. And under the picture, for chilling words, "She didn't die naturally." I dropped the phone, my stomach churning, my skin clammy. Whoever this was, they weren't just threatening me. They were telling me the truth. My mother had been murdered. I ran to my aunt, showing her the message. She gasped, crossing herself. "Emily, this isn't safe anymore. Whoever Vanessa is, she's dangerous. And now you're poking the bear." But I couldn't stop now. I wouldn't. If Vanessa had something to do with my mother's death, if she had been conning my dad from the start, if she was capable of framing me for fraud, then she was capable of much, much worse. I decided then and there. I would dig deeper, no matter the cost. The next day, I skipped class, skipped everything, and drove back to the hospital where Mom had died years ago. I begged the records clerk to let me see her file. At first he refused, but when I showed him the threatening text, his eyes softened. "I shouldn't do this," he whispered, "but something feels wrong here too." He handed me a copy of her file. I flipped through the pages, scanning words that blurred together until one line stood out. Toxicology results. Inconclusive. Inconclusive. My heart thundered in my chest. What if Mom had been poisoned? Suddenly, the clerk leaned closer. "I remember your mom. She was young, healthy. Her case never sat right with me. But then your dad asked us to keep the file closed, said he didn't want it reopened. He was grieving. We respected that." I swallowed hard. Dad. My own father. Why hadn't he wanted this investigated? I left the hospital in a daze, clutching the file against my chest like it was my mother's voice crying out for justice. But when I pulled into my aunt's driveway, I froze. Because the front door was wide open. The living room window shattered. And inside, I could hear my aunt screaming. "Aunt Claire!" I screamed, racing up the porch steps 2 at a time. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear myself think. The front door dangled from a broken hinge, the wood splintered where someone had forced their way in. Her scream echoed again from inside. I rushed in, nearly slipping on the shattered glass scattered across the living room floor. Lamps knocked over. Couch cushions slashed open like someone had been searching for something. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a break-in. This was a warning. "Aunt Claire!" I shouted again, my voice cracking. From the kitchen, I heard muffled sobs. I burst through the doorway and froze. My aunt was on her knees, her wrists bound with duct tape, a rag stuffed in her mouth. Standing over her was a man I had never seen before, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black, his face half covered by a ski mask. In his hand, a knife gleamed under the flickering kitchen light. For a second, everything inside me shut down. My legs locked, my throat tightened, and I thought, this is it. I'm next. But then his eyes flicked toward me, cold, calculating, like he was measuring my fear, and he whispered in a low, gravelly voice. "Stop digging, Emily. Stop digging, or she dies." The knife pressed closer to my aunt's neck, and she whimpered behind the gag, her eyes wide with terror. My chest heaved. "Please," I begged, "don't hurt her. She has nothing to do with this. Take me instead." He tilted his head, almost amused. "You? Oh, sweetheart, you're the one they want alive. To suffer." Those words made my blood run cold. They want me alive. Who were they? Vanessa? Someone else working with her? Before I could move, before I could even scream, he yanked the knife away from my aunt's neck and drove it into the wooden countertop, leaving it quivering. Then he leaned close to me, his masked face inches from mine. "Your mother's death wasn't an accident," he whispered. "And if you keep searching, you'll end up in the same grave." Then, just like that, he bolted for the back door and vanished into the night. I dropped to my knees, ripping the tape off my aunt's mouth and pulling the rag free. She gasped, coughing, tears streaming down her face. "Emily, oh God, Emily," she sobbed, clutching me tightly. "He was waiting when I got home. He kept saying your name. He kept saying, "I know," I whispered, holding her, trying to calm my own shaking hands. "I know." We called the police, but of course by the time they arrived, the man was long gone. They filed a report, asked questions, but their tone made it clear. They didn't believe it was anything more than a break-in gone wrong. But I knew better. I lay awake that night in my aunt's bedroom, clutching Mom's old hospital file against my chest. My mind spun with questions. Who was that man? Was he hired by Vanessa? Or was Vanessa just a piece of a much larger game? And my dad, where did he fit in? Did he know what was happening, or was he being played just like me? The thought gnawed at me. What if Dad had known something about Mom's death all along? What if his silence wasn't weakness, but guilt? The next morning, I decided I couldn't just sit around waiting for answers to come to me. I had to go where it all began. Back to the cemetery. Back to Mom's grave. The air was heavy when I arrived, clouds hanging low like a blanket of secrets. I knelt by her gravestone, brushing away fallen leaves, my throat tight. "Mom, I don't know what's happening, but I promise you, I'll find out the truth, even if it kills me." That's when I noticed something strange. The flowers. The same fresh flowers from the photo texted to me the night before. Only now they weren't fresh anymore. They were wilted, dry at the edges, like they'd been placed there days ago. Which meant the photo wasn't new. It had been taken earlier. Someone had been watching, waiting, saving it to send to me at just the right moment. A chill ran down my spine. I stood and scanned the cemetery, my eyes darting over the rows of graves. And then I saw him, a man in black, the same build as the intruder from last night, standing under a tree at the far end. He wasn't moving, just watching me. My blood turned to ice. I took a step back, then another. He tilted his head, like he was daring me to run. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. And then he started walking toward me. My legs wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted to the ground as the man in black walked steadily toward me across the cemetery. His boots crunched on gravel, each step deliberate, echoing in the heavy silence. I stumbled backward, my breath ragged, my eyes darting for an escape. The gravestones blurred in my vision, the cold wind stinging my face. He was coming closer, and with every step, I felt like I was suffocating. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice trembling but loud enough to cut through the emptiness. He didn't answer. He just kept walking, his face still hidden beneath the hood of his black sweatshirt. "Tell me," I demanded, though my voice cracked. "Did you kill my mom? Did Vanessa send you?" That stopped him. He froze, only a few yards away now, his shadow stretching across the ground like a dark stain. Slowly, he raised his head, just enough for me to see his mouth. His lips curved into a cold smile. "Your mom," his voice was low, gravelly, the same voice from my aunt's kitchen, "was asking too many questions." The world tilted. Questions? About what? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled something from his pocket. A folded piece of paper. He tossed it onto the grass between us. I bent down slowly, my hands shaking, and picked it up. My stomach dropped when I opened it. It was a hospital report, just like the one I'd taken earlier. But this one was different. On the bottom, scrawled in red pen, were the words, "Lethal dose. Intentional." My vision blurred with tears. My suspicions weren't just paranoia. My mother had been poisoned. By who? I looked back up, my voice breaking. Who did this to her? Was it Vanessa? Was it my father? He tilted his head again. Both of them know more than they've told you. Both. The word hit me like a punch in the chest. My knees buckled, and I gripped my mother's gravestone for balance. "You're lying," I whispered. "My dad loved her. He would never." The man cut me off. "Your father signed the paperwork that closed her case. Ask yourself why." My throat went dry. I remembered the hospital clerk's words. Dad had insisted the file be shut. He hadn't wanted it reopened. Why? Why would he do that if he was innocent? I staggered forward. "Who are you? Why are you telling me this?" For the first time, his tone softened just a little. Because your mother helped me once. And now, I'm helping you. Before I could respond, before I could demand more, he stepped back into the shadows. Within seconds, he was gone, swallowed by the rows of graves and trees. I stood there shaking, gripping the report so hard my knuckles turned white. If he was telling the truth, then Vanessa wasn't just a schemer. She might have killed before. And my dad might have been covering it up. When I got back to my aunt's house, she saw my face and knew something had happened. I showed her the paper. She gasped, crossing herself. Emily, you can't stay here anymore. You're not safe. Where do I go? I whispered. Somewhere they won't find you. But before you leave, you need to confront your father. You need to know the truth. That night, my mind spun in a tornado of memories and fear. My dad's silence. Vanessa's smirks. The threatening texts. The intruder's words. And my mother's smile. Her laughter. The way she used to tuck my hair behind my ear when I was little. I couldn't rest until I knew. So the next morning I drove to the house. My chest felt like it was caving in as I pulled into the driveway. I half expected the police to be waiting for me, or Vanessa, with that same smug grin. Instead, I walked in to find my dad alone at the kitchen table. He looked tired, older than I'd ever seen him. Emily, he said quietly, we need to talk. The words lodged in my throat.
About Mom?
His eyes flicked to mine, haunted, guilty. I never wanted you to find out this way. The room spun. Find out what, Dad? Before he could answer, before the words could leave his lips, the front door slammed open. And Vanessa stormed in, her face red, her eyes blazing, her voice shrill as she screamed. Don't you dare tell her the truth. The sound of the door slamming rattled the whole house, and I froze in place. My father's shoulders stiffened as Vanessa marched into the kitchen, her heels striking the hardwood floor like gunshots. Her eyes, sharp and furious, locked on him first, then snapped to me. You have no right, she spat, pointing a manicured finger at my dad. You promised me this would stay buried. Do you want to destroy everything? My chest tightened. Buried, I whispered. What are you talking about? Vanessa laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. Of course he didn't tell you. He never had the guts. Dad slammed his hand on the table, the sound making me flinch. Enough, Vanessa. No, she shot back, her face twisted with rage. If she's so desperate to dig, let her dig. Let her choke on the truth like her mother did. The words hit me like ice water poured over my skin. What do you mean? My voice trembled. What happened to Mom? Vanessa tilted her head, her lips curling into a cruel smile. Your precious mother wasn't the saint you think she was. She had secrets too. Secrets that could have ruined your father. Secrets that could have ruined me. Dad stood abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor. His voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare drag her into this. She's not here to defend herself. I clenched the hospital report in my hand, shaking. Then defend her for her. Because I know she didn't just die. She was poisoned. Silence. The air grew so thick I could barely breathe. My father's face went pale, his jaw tightening, his eyes darting away from mine. Vanessa smirked. There it is. She knows. I turned on him, my voice breaking. Dad, please.
Tell me you didn't know.
Tell me you didn't let her die. For a moment, I saw it. The guilt, the shame, the unbearable weight he carried. His lips parted, but no words came out. Vanessa leaned closer to me, her perfume sickeningly sweet. Ask him, Emily. Ask him why he signed those hospital papers. Ask him why he told the doctors to shut up and close the case. I felt like the ground was tilting under me. Why, Dad? I cried, tears streaming down my cheeks. He slammed his fist on the table again, the sound making dishes rattle. Because I had no choice. The room spun. My breath caught. No choice. What does that mean? His eyes flickered with pain. If the truth had come out, if people knew what really happened that night, we would have lost everything.
You. Me.
The life we built. Vanessa's voice dripped like venom. What he means, sweetheart, is that your mother dug too deep into something she wasn't supposed to, and it cost her her life. No, I whispered, shaking my head. You're lying. You're both lying. My father reached for me, but I stumbled back. Emily, listen to me. Don't touch me, I shouted, my voice raw. If you loved her, you would have fought for her. You would have fought for justice. Tears filled his eyes, but he said nothing. Nothing. And that silence was louder than any confession. Vanessa leaned back against the counter, satisfied, her arms folded. See, Emily? The fairy tale's over. Your father isn't a hero. He's a coward who chose me and power over your mother. My knees buckled. I wanted to scream, to run, to tear the truth out of both of them. My chest heaved. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the paper anymore. And then, before I could speak, a shadow appeared at the doorway. A man's silhouette. The intruder. The same hooded figure from the cemetery. My heart stopped. Dad and Vanessa froze too, their eyes wide. He stepped inside, his voice low but steady. Not another word. It's time Emily finally knows everything. The hooded man's voice was calm, but it carried a weight that pressed against my chest. Emily deserves the truth. All of it. I stumbled back until my spine hit the wall. My pulse hammered so loudly I thought it might tear out of my throat. Who are you? I whispered. The man lowered his hood. I gasped. It wasn't a stranger. It was Uncle Daniel, my father's younger brother. The one who disappeared years ago after some family feud nobody would ever explain. Daniel, Dad's voice cracked, his eyes narrowing. You shouldn't be here. On the contrary, Daniel said, stepping further into the room, his gaze flickering between me and Vanessa. This is exactly where I need to be. For Emily's sake. I looked at him, my mind racing. Why were you following me? Why were you at Mom's grave? His expression softened, but only when he looked at me. Because you're the only one left who doesn't know the truth. And it's time someone told you. Vanessa scoffed, arms crossed. Don't start your nonsense, Daniel. You're as much a liar as your brother. Daniel's eyes blazed. No, Vanessa. I'm the only one here who didn't lie. He turned back to me, and his voice dropped. Emily, your mother didn't die from some mysterious illness. She was silenced. She uncovered something about your father and Vanessa, something dangerous, something that could have destroyed them. And when she threatened to expose it, she vanished. I shook my head violently.
No,
that can't be true. Dad, say something. Tell him he's lying. But Dad didn't. His jaw locked, his fists clenched, and that silence, again, was deafening. My knees weakened. I clutched the edge of the table to keep from collapsing. Vanessa's lips curved into a bitter smile. Careful, Daniel. You're rewriting history. She was fragile, obsessed, sick in the head. That's what killed her. Daniel's laugh was sharp, humorless. Sick in the head? Or sick from the pills you slipped into her tea? I know, Vanessa. I saw the bottles you hid. I confronted you then, and what happened? The next day, I was branded insane, run out of town, and silenced just like her. My breath caught. I stared at Vanessa, horror twisting in my gut. You poisoned her? She didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She just tilted her head and said, Your mother never knew when to stop. The room tilted. My father's face crumpled, his hands trembling. He whispered something so faint I almost missed it. I should have stopped her. My body went cold. You knew, I said hoarsely, tears blurring my vision. You knew, and you let it happen. Dad's head dropped into his hands. I thought I was protecting you, protecting us. I felt something inside me shatter. Daniel's voice thundered through the room. No, brother. You weren't protecting Emily. You were protecting yourself. You signed those hospital papers to bury the truth, not to save her. And now look at her. She's the one paying the price for your cowardice. The weight of his words slammed into me. My heart pounded. My vision swam. My world, my family, my memories, Everything was crumbling into dust. I backed away from all of them, my chest heaving. No, no, I can't. Daniel reached out to steady me, but I flinched. Don't touch me. Emily, listen to me, he said, his tone urgent now. This is bigger than your father and Vanessa. What they were involved in, it's still going on. Your mother uncovered a network, something dangerous, something that reached beyond this house. That's why she had to be silenced. I froze. A network. I whispered. Vanessa's smile faltered for the first time. Her eyes darted nervously to my father. Daniel nodded, his voice heavy with truth. Your mother died because she found out too much. And if you keep digging, Emily, they'll come for you too. The room was silent except for the thunder of my heartbeat. And then the lights flickered. The whole house went dark. For one terrifying second, I heard only my ragged breathing. Then, the sound of glass shattering from the living room. Someone else was in the house. The darkness pressed in like a suffocating blanket. My pulse roared in my ears as footsteps creaked across the broken glass in the living room. Stay here, Daniel whispered, pulling me behind him. But I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I could only stare at my father and Vanessa, whose faces were pale shadows in the dim light. Then flashlights. 2 beams cut through the dark, and men in black stepped into the room. Their movements were precise, controlled. Not burglars. Not random intruders. They were here for something. Or someone. Vanessa stiffened. My father muttered, "No, not now." One of the men spoke, his voice clipped and cold. The girl knows too much. She comes with us. My blood froze. They meant me. Daniel moved in front of me instantly. Over my dead body. Vanessa's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and panicked. Wait. She doesn't know everything. I swear. She hasn't seen the files, hasn't found the records. The men's lights swung toward her, then to my father. The silence between them said everything. They were all connected. Bile rose in my throat. You sold Mom out to them, didn't you? That's why she died. You let them take her. Dad's face crumbled, tears streaming down. Emily, don't you dare. I screamed. My voice cracked, filled with the years of silence, lies, and betrayal. Don't you dare call that protection. You killed her with your silence. The men advanced. Daniel shoved me toward the back door.
Run. Now.
I hesitated, my heart breaking in two. What about you? He smiled faintly. I already lost everything. But you're her daughter. You still have a chance. The men lunged. Chaos erupted, shouts, the crash of furniture, Vanessa screaming. My father reached for me, but I wrenched away, bolting into the night. Cold air slapped my face as I sprinted through the darkness, tears blurring my vision. Behind me, the house exploded into shouts, glass, and violence. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I ran until my lungs burned, until the sound of my father's voice faded into nothing but wind. Weeks later, I sat in a cheap motel room far from home, clutching a worn photo of my mother. Daniel hadn't made it out. My father and Vanessa had disappeared. The house was abandoned, its secrets buried again. But not for long. Because Daniel was right, my mother had left breadcrumbs. Notes, files, evidence of the network she'd uncovered. And now I had them. The truth was bigger than my family. Bigger than me. I traced my mother's face in the photo, my voice barely a whisper. They tried to silence you, Mom. But they won't silence me. The photo trembled in my hands, but my resolve didn't. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning.